My name is Steve Caballas. I'm from Fairfax, Vermont. My injury occurred January 26, 1998. It's just this past Saturday. And we always go out to celebrate the night of the injury because I really shouldn't be here. I'm a respiratory therapist by trade. I trained at Bellevue in 1979, and I've been around the block in respiratory therapy. I've worked in hospitals for 36 years. I was a supervisor twice, an educational coordinator once in a trauma center, and moved to Vermont in 1988 and decided to work in small hospitals. I felt that you work just as hard as you do in a big hospital, but instead of putting out fires all day, you're actually spending more time with patients and doing better quality therapy. So I like small hospitals. And I've been a respiratory therapist or working therapist since 1980. I was one of 4 students at Bellevue that was chosen to work while I was in school. And that was great, getting to learn things during the week in school, and then you actually get to see them and do them during the weekend when you were working. Great fun. Part of my definition of myself is as a respiratory therapist. I'm not sure about you, but I absolutely love my work. It's just passionate about my work. And all was going well, and then January 26, 1998, I decided to go on a mountain climbing trip to Mount Katahdin in Maine. A winter trip, and I went to sort of be supportive of my older brother. At the time, I felt that he needed more time hiking to handle his stress. I learned differently. But on the climb, conditions were poor. In 1998, it was the year of the ice storm. And conditions were poor up there. And we got up on the mountain, and I decided, okay, this is not good. We're out of here. So we turned around and we headed down the hill. We're walking downhill in the correct fashion. Basically, 2 guys up ahead, 2 guys in the back, and I'm one of the guys in the back, and I fell. The thing I'll never ever understand is how I lost my ice axe. Without an ice axe, you can't stop. And it should have been tied to my wrist. But when I tried to stop myself, I lost the axe. Without an axe, I got knocked out and then slid 800 to 1,000 feet downhill. When you're wearing real crampons to walk on ice, whether you're on your back or on your belly, you're going head first. So head first, I went a long way down that steep hill. Who would ever guess that a hat could save your life? I think my hat saved my life. It was a helmet liner, and it went around my head, and I liked it on winter trips. On the way down, it's cold. But the helmet liner stayed on my head as my head hit rocks. As it is, according to a newspaper article that a former patient of mine found, I stopped when I hit a really big rock, and that just stopped me. The 1,000-foot fall did not kill me. I chipped C3, so I chipped the 3rd cervical bone from my neck, from my brain, but I didn't break it. But the lack of first aid almost killed me. I hit my head so hard, I lost half my blood through my head, and there was no first aid. So I lost half my blood, and it got down to 25 below that night. My older brother stayed with me. I think they thought I was going to die. So he stayed with me, but basically I think he panicked, and there was no first aid. Luckily, a helicopter crew from the Army took 5 hours for the other 2 to get out and get to the phone. They called the mountain called the Army sent the helicopter. The helicopter was never signaled, so they had to use night vision goggles to find me. They ran out of gas, and they had to wait 2 hours for a fuel truck. By the time they found me, the mountain had sent a snowmobile crew, and they found me. So between everybody, they got me up in the helicopter, and flew me 100 miles away to Bangor. They put me on a ventilator right away and x-rayed my body and CAT scanned my head. Told my wife that I had a severe traumatic brain injury. Unfortunately, Grace found out the next day. And I could have died that night. But I spent 10 days on a ventilator and then 5 weeks in an uninduced coma. Came home with a wheelchair to recover and didn't like the way things were, didn't like the wheelchair, did not use the wheelchair, gave the wheelchair away. And I ended up knowing that exercise is the best thing you can do for your brain. So every day I would run a little bit. I used to be a track star in high school, so I would run. And on my birthday, the year that I fell, I ran 5 miles, and that was my goal. The reason I'm surviving and doing so well is primarily because of my wife, Grace. And she received the Caregiver of the Year award from the Brain Injury Association. She's been remarkable to me. So when actually I was 98, and in 2002, I hiked the entire Long Trail as a way to start a scholarship for others in Vermont with traumatic brain injury. That was over my head. It was too soon after my injury it was tough. It was very tough, but I did it. And my best friend, Buster, my puppy, well, always called a puppy, but he did the whole thing with me as well. And that year, 2002, I received the Vermont Brain Injury Association Survivor of the Year Award, which was pretty cool. The Long Trail hike had 3 goals. Raise awareness about traumatic brain injury. That was well before the Afghanistan war, where brain injury became the signature injury of the war. And also to raise awareness, motivate others with brain injury, and also to start a scholarship fund. So with the walk, we raised $7,000 and started the CART Scholarship Fund, Cathalis Activity Recreation Therapy. I knew that by doing things, by being active, by getting things done, you improve your self-esteem. So the money helped us start a scholarship. We've given away several scholarships to survivors of brain injury, and that's going well. Then I went back to work. I was an acute care respiratory therapist, but after my injury, what seemed to work best is doing pulmonary rehabilitation. And gee, what a perfect therapist for pulmonary rehabilitation. I've been a rehab patient. I knew what it's like to be a patient. Plus, I was a really good acute care therapist. So I'm back at work and I'm working in pulmonary rehab. It was excellent for me in that it was structured. You only had only outpatients. So patients would come to the hospital, hour and a half, 3 times a week, get their therapy, and then go home. So it worked well for me. In 2008, I received the Vermont, New Hampshire Therapist of the Year Award. I guess I'm pretty good at what I do. And I asked, why did I get the award? And it's because you've done everything there is to do in our field. So that was great. So 100% loved my work as a respiratory therapist, especially after the injury, doing rehab. Could really connect with my patients. And then in September of 2016, I overheard some patient breathing in the hallway. Overheard a visitor in the hallway having a hard time breathing. So I asked her if she was in pain. She said no. And I taught her how to breathe efficiently, which she wasn't doing. The hospital decided that I stepped out over my bounds as a therapist by helping a visitor, and they decided to fire me, which was horrific. 36 years, highest quality. I mean, I'm good at what I do. Highest quality, only cared about my patients, and they fired me. Brand new CEOs of the hospital, Copley Hospital. I used to only say good things about that hospital, but the new CEO has changed the dynamics. Anyway, so that was 2 years ago, and what I've been doing since then is volunteering my work. I volunteer for the MRC, Medical Reserve Corps, and so helping out different things. The last thing I did for them is I volunteered at the homeless shelter, emergency cold weather shelter. This, 2 weekends ago, when it was sub-zero weather, I helped out at the shelter. And tomorrow I'm going to the farm show to help the Medical Reserve Corps as well. I see one patient pro bono for free. She was a former patient of mine in 2013, and I'm sort of like acting as her personal trainer. That's nice. I'm a personal trainer. I've been an athlete, but I know a lot about respiratory therapy and breathing. So she's pulmonary fibrosis, and I'm kind of working with her physician and helping her maintain her well-being. That's kind of fun stuff. Yeah, so the other really fun thing is in June of last year, I received a national award. The American Lung Association chose me as Volunteer of the Year. That is a really big deal. I've been helping my pulmonary patients through the American Lung Association since 1980. And I didn't do it because I knew there was an award. I just it's the right thing to do. 36 years in the hospital, and the past 2 years just for free, one-on-one. Right off the bat, number one, take nothing for granted. Take nothing for granted. Everything is a gift. It sounds kind of fluffy, cliche type stuff, but no, everything is a gift. You get a cup of coffee in the morning, and when you shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be here. With my injury, I didn't even get into the intracranial pressure. It was like, right now yours and mine are 3 or 4 centimeters. Mine peaked at 28. And oftentimes the injury in the brain, closed head injury, that's what'll kill you. But I take nothing for granted. The cup of coffee I had this morning, the best cup of coffee I've had in my life. I appreciate everything. I met the nice lady Christine outside. What a gift. If I wasn't here, I wouldn't have met her. If I had died 21 years ago, I wouldn't have met you. So everything is a gift. Everything is a gift. Nothing for granted. Everything is a gift. And it's another cliche, live every day like it's your last. Well, gee, that happened to me one day. I had a bad accident. I shouldn't be. So I live every day as if it's your last. What I do is I value everything. I love my new puppy, Harley, is my new best friend, and my wife Grace, and all my friends. You value everything. We're just so blessed to be alive, and what it comes down to, giving back to others is critical to me. Helping out at that homeless shelter, whatever. There for the grace of God go I. Some of the folks that I met that night at the homeless shelter, you have a picture in your mind what a homeless person is like, and this was not the case. There for the grace of God go I.